it's the One Star Cowboys podcast. I am Kevin Turner. We have John Machota, Saad Youssef, Kent Garrison, the usual suspects here. And I want to start with a question for you, John. John, what year did you start being the official beat, reporter, or what year did you start covering the Cowboys?
So 2011 is when I started going to I started going to all the offseason stuff. So Tyron Smith's draft, probably from there forward. I didn't start going to road games until 2014, though. I went to all the home games.
Is this the most eventful bye week you've had to cover in those 14 years?
Yeah, it's not even close, because you go from what you would say is probably their worst loss of the season, in the way that they lost to Arizona, and it's a Monday night. And so you're the only game that's on TV, unless you have YouTube TV, then you didn't know it. You didn't see it even happen. But no, so then you wake up in the morning and the Cowboys make a trade for Logan Wilson, a linebacker, who you're like, okay, that doesn't really move the needle. And then they trade for Quinnen Williams, which is the biggest trade that they've made, adding a player since 2018 when they traded for Amari. Obviously, Micah Parsons trade's still a bigger trade, but in terms of a player they got, biggest trade since then. And then Quinnen Williams is made available the next day at the Star. And you're like, oh, this will give you plenty of content to go through. They're in a bye week and everything. And then obviously Thursday morning, you get the Marshawn Kneeland news that he passed. And it's the oddest, strangest, you're busy, but you're not really even thinking about it because it's just such a, it's an awful up and down to the way the week went.
Yeah, and I mean, you were there for, I guess, the Jerry Brown.
So I didn't go to road games that year, but I remember that Saturday when the team was traveling to Cincinnati, I was actually covering a high school state playoff game, helping out with the Dallas Morning News doing that. And all the other writers that did travel were up in the air when that news broke. And so I'm trying to reach out to people. Keep in mind, this is 2011. I just barely got on the beat. I don't have that great of sources. And I just bring that up because when there's a death, I'm not going off of some third level source. I can tell you this right now, even in this case with Marshawn Kneeland, there's 5 people that could tell me that could confirm that to me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I should say within the Cowboys organization, and maybe that's even 3, but then obviously if you have a police report, which obviously was put out by the Frisco Police Department, released a statement. And so, but outside that, you're not going to go off of some type of, source that you're like, do they really have firsthand knowledge? This is very, very serious. And so I just remember when the team landed in Cincinnati that I'm good friends with Brandon George, who he was covering the Cowboys that time with the Morning News, and he was in Cincinnati, and he was just saying how you basically had to you just went to the team hotel and you just waited to try and get, comment from players, which to me just sounds awful. Made me glad that I wasn't there, and obviously players really don't want to talk in that situation. They're just finding out about it. And so, there were some time on Thursday where I live very close to the Star, where I was like, I'm going to go up to the Star and we don't have access, but I'm just going to see what's going on up there. See if, maybe they are going to make a player available or something like that, but it's a bye week. So they didn't. And so, there really was only so much you could do, and so it's tough because you also don't want to put somebody in a situation to hey, talk about this right now and throw a microphone in front of their face, because everybody handles these things differently, and so, yeah. And you kind of battle with this too, from the team standpoint, is is it better to be playing that week? And so you aren't just sitting around and you have that on your mind, or is it better that it was a bye week and you do have time to grieve and be around teammates and family and that? And I really don't know the answer. We haven't had any access to the players. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we record this obviously on Tuesday, but on Wednesday we'll have Brian Schottenheimer around 1:00 at the Star for a press conference. And then that's it for Wednesday. And then Thursday will be our first day to actually have practice, have players available. And, that's a day when I imagine Dak Prescott usually talks on Thursdays. I anticipate he'll talk on Thursday. Solomon Thomas, who him and Dak Prescott, it's not just the Cowboys, but I would say, and not just the NFL, in all of sports, those are two of the biggest faces of suicide prevention, in terms of professional athletes. And so they're obviously going to have a lot to say about it. And then we'll have Access Friday. And then I think it just conference call stuff on Saturday. And then Sunday we go to Vegas. And so I don't know how the players will be about it. I don't know if you guys saw the post that Josh Butler showed on Instagram where players had put flowers at Marshawn Kneeland's locker. I don't know if we're going to have locker room access. That's still to be determined. So we're kind of just, going with whatever access they allow.
Yeah, I think also like John said, like there's not any planned access or stuff, but for, Dak was available for his private matter, which was kind of pre-planned at his old high school and all that stuff. And, I've been around Dak since he was drafted and, you can just read someone's face sometimes. And he was just, it was just, very, very like you could just tell how hard that hit him, that whole day, just for him to be there for a happy occasion. But you could just tell whether it was him talking to the media, him talking to the players in the locker room after, he was pretty transparent about that. That's what was on his mind. And so that was probably the only link that we did get to the players in terms of, actual talking other than social media posts. But that to me said a lot too, because that was really tough.
And it's going to be really tough on Wednesday or tomorrow, whatever. We're recording this on Tuesday, so Wednesday during the day. It's going to be tough for Brian Schottenheimer too, because this might not even matter, but it's just something I thought about. He isn't, 1960s, 70s, hard-nosed, scream at the players all the time guy. When he got the job, his main thing that I'll always take away from it is that he said he wanted to build the greatest culture in the history of sports. And so, you're not even a full year into the job and you have something like this. There's nothing that prepares you for this. And so I do think Brian Schottenheimer will be great for the team. Jason Garrett was certainly great for the team when Jerry Brown passed. I remember being around the team that entire season. And, Jason Garrett, I don't think a coach could do a better job than the way that he led that team that year. And I certainly expect Brian Schottenheimer to do the same, but you just don't know. There's no blueprint for how you handle something like this.
Yeah. And just to be clear, because it's bye week, and by the way, for our audience who expect us last week, we all kind of had a text chain going, but we were kind of like, I just don't really feel like doing it. It's a bye week, take the week off, but to sit and talk about something like this is tough. And I think you all have Cowboys fans have read the news stories and, you probably know what happened. So I don't feel like we need to go into any of that, right now or anything like that. It just, it's really one of those things. I was thinking about this is all of the things that Brian Schottenheimer has had to deal with in his first year. And then to get that, the toughest thing that a head coach would have to deal with, to throw that on top of everything. And it's just crazy. And it probably was, good timing for a bye week for guys to get away and things like that. Cause are the rules basically you have to be away for 5 days or 6 days? What are the full rules for the bye week on that?
It's interesting you say that, because when we got a chance to talk to Quinnen Williams last Wednesday, he's coming over from the Jets who were on their bye week. So he had talked about how it wasn't going to be a bye week for him, that he was going to be at the facility, that he was going to do what he called a simulated game, which is basically run a ton of gassers, basically, to put himself through the type of, workout that would be similar to an NFL game. And so I expected Quinnen Williams to be at the facility. So I imagine that you could still go up there. It's probably one of those things like the off season where it's you're probably not meeting with coaches and stuff, but I imagine the weight room's open and guys can go up there and work out if they want and do whatever. They have to get treatment and things like that, which players are always having to get. I would imagine that they were able to be up there,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's enough on that. If you guys have anything else you want to share, go ahead. But I sort of move on. You mentioned Quinnen Williams. We had the big trade trade deadline day. Weird to have a trade deadline the day after a Monday night game for sure. Obviously, we did the post-game pod and all that stuff. But to see everything that happened on Tuesday, Logan Wilson, which we can talk about in a second as well, but Quinnen Williams is the big one. Quinnen Williams, great player. I definitely have some thoughts on this, and I'm sure you guys too. What were your initial thoughts? You find out this trade's going down. You look at the compensation. What was your immediate reaction? Start with you, John.
I mean, I would have done 2 1s, probably a 2 and maybe more for Max Crosby. So I'm not going to sit here and be a hypocrite and say, wow, I just looked at that and I was like, they are idiots. I was like, that's a great move. Howie Roseman does that. Everybody applauds. Jerry's an easy punching bag, and for good reason. He's done plenty of things so people will be negative about him, but I'm a big fan of Quinnen Williams. I know that they liked him a lot. They obviously tried to get him when they were trading Micah Parsons. And I still think that you don't trade Micah Parsons to the Packers and only get what you get. But I'm not the one that sits there and goes, oh, well, you have to make this move now because you have these picks. Like, I'm not really comparing it to, oh, well, Micah's younger and he's more impactful. That's fine. Like, Quinnen Williams is a guy that I know he's about to be 28. Like, I still think he's got a good 3, 4, 5 years of ball left in him. And I don't look at it like, oh, they did this to try and save the season. I did this to, for me, I'm not on the team. I don't care about being positive and the rah-rah stuff. I observe and I write what I see and what I think about sports. And I've been covering the team for a while. I think I have, I think I make logical takes on the Cowboys. And I would say when it happened, I was like, this makes me think of the future. I'm already past this season. Like, I don't think this is going to be a playoff season. And so when I look at the future, it's not hard for me to see an offseason where this team gets pretty good. They still have 2 first-round picks. You have Quinnen Williams in the middle. I anticipate Kenny Clark is probably not going to be back. You just can't pay 3 defensive tackles $20+ million. So, but I can see a world where Donovan Azaraku is one of your starting defensive ends. You have another starting defensive end that you draft in the first round, or you get in the offseason. You got Osa and Quinnen Williams in the middle. You got DeMarvion Overshown, and maybe it's Logan Wilson. Maybe it's a linebacker you add in free agency. Maybe it's Maris Leofau. And then you use another first-round pick on a corner, and all of a sudden this defense is pretty good. And that's the way I looked at it more so than I just saw some hot take artists go, like, what are they doing for this season? Like, this season's lost. Like, no, Quinnen Williams to me is bigger than just this season.
Yeah, for me, this was all about, the first thing that I thought about is Dak's window and Dak's contract right now. And for me, that's the main thing. Dak has talked about possibly playing into his 40s, so I don't want to make it sound like, this contract is the end and this is it. But if, we can't compare people to the outliers, Tom Brady playing into his 40s, Aaron Rodgers, whatever. With Dak and the injuries that he's gone through, I think you look at this contract as what you need to capitalize on. And you got like 2-3 more years left on this. Aaron Donald retired in 2023. He was 32 years old and he was playing at a very high level, throughout. And again, Aaron Donald, a little bit of an outlier in terms of how good he is, but I'm just saying from a defensive tackle position, Quinnen Williams turns 28 in a month. If you get 3 more years out of him, that's the duration of Dak's contract. And I think for that deal, that's solid. Although maybe he plays at a playable level past that as well. He's just not maybe his superstar self. But I think it was a really good trade for the future. It was a awkward, weird way to get there for sure in terms of the Micah trade and all that kind of went into that. But yeah, I thought it was a solid trade for the Dak window, and I think at this point that's what really matters most.
Yeah, I think there's the point too. You can't rebuild with Dak. It's just not something you can do. So getting something for next year, the year after, it does make me very curious about Kenny Clark's future here, which to me would cause a lot of contract restructuring, or maybe he's just gone because he was coming in at a very affordable price this year. So it did make me think about that a lot. I have such a problem, fundamentally, and you guys probably do too, fundamentally with the order of operations and the timing of all this, I do have a big problem with that. I think when there is a world where it's possible that the draft inventory that you gave up for Quinnen Williams is equal to what you got back for Micah Parsons, if things play out that way, and that's, yet to be seen. I think that's dangerous to me because I value Micah Parsons as a much better player than Quinnen Williams. So that's where I have trouble with it. But I also understand you just can't sit there and just be like, oh, well, the draft gods are going to shine on the Cowboys, and with all these first-round picks, they're going to hit on all of them. Like, I think recent history shows us that's probably not going to be the case.
No, I think they look at it, though, from the salary cap standpoint, too, though. I think they factor that in. That in fact, I know they do. That's been told to me by the team, that they look at it also is that, you'd be paying Micah at minimum 40, we'll say 42. And you're paying Quinnen Williams like a mid-20s guy. And so that gives you another $20 million to work with.
I understand that. I have to push back on that though, because Micah's cap number this year and next year and in 2027 is like just 10 million more than Quinnen Williams. Like, it's not like they start talking to the 30s and 40s about that stuff. I'm like, well, yeah, but if you look at Micah's cap numbers are going to be really bad for Green Bay in 2028. Like, that's going to be bad. Right now, it's not. Or in 2026 and 2027, it's not even that bad. So, like,
well, also, let's be honest, there's another level of this too. And that's Micah. The fact, well, no, but with Micah, there's also a fact of, with what else is going on in Dallas with Luka Doncic as well, in that you also, when you make those trades, you also provided something else. That's a lot of motivation for the player.
Sure.
A lot of motivation for that player. Because in both cases, those players are like, I'm franchise guy, I'm young, I'm going to be here forever. This is my franchise. And those are rude awakenings for both of them. Those are great motivators for both of them, that like, whatever you're doing that maybe you don't even think is a negative, but you might have a little bit of a question about, you're probably taking care of that. You're probably getting in better shape if shape was the thing. You're probably not doing radio show or podcasts and stuff like that if that was the thing. Whatever it is. We're not going to act like there aren't changes that come with that. So you can't factor that in either. There's a big motivator for that going forward as well. And for the Cowboys, I don't know, maybe you get that out of Quinnen Williams too. I certainly felt when he talked on Wednesday that he thought he was going to be with the New York Jets for the duration of his career. He actually felt very strongly about their defense and what they were going to be. And so he did say, I don't remember his exact word, but I want to say it was disappointed that he didn't get to see it through. Now we look at it like, well, it's the New York Jets, whatever. But, I'm sure there's people in Green Bay that look at him. If Mike had anything to say about the Cowboys, he'd be like, man, aren't you glad to be out of there? It's the Dallas Cowboys. Or, you think there's Lakers fans that are like, man, Luka probably really would rather be in Dallas than with the Lakers.
Yeah.
That probably they don't see it that way. You know what I'm saying? So like it's easy for us to sit there and be cynical and go, oh, well, no, he's got to be thrilled to leave the Jets. Like that's not necessarily always the case for these guys.
Yeah, and the other thing, KT, I understand your point about the cap numbers and all that, but we also, to John's verbiage of layers, like we can't discount the element of how emotionally charged it was towards the end of the Micah situation, because Jerry finally kind of showed his cards last week earlier before the Cardinals game. When he talked about the picture on the table, on the training table in the preseason, things like that. Like this wasn't just some super calculated, like I'm sure it was during the off season, like when the deal was first presented, I'm sure there was a lot of like finances and cap and how it all works in the pie and all that stuff. But by the time you got to mid-August, there was ego, there was emotional, there was emotions involved in that. And I think that was the tipping point at the end of it. So I think that all plays a part in it too, because the same way that I don't think, I hate, look, Nico Harrison got fired today, so I guess we can do this, but absolutely. but the same way that you see the way that the team was built in Dallas with the Mavericks, it was for Luka. I mean, this was very similar to Dallas with Micah Parsons with the Cowboys. Like that's why you let DeMarcus Lawrence go without really even giving him an offer. That's why you get Donovan Ezaraku in the draft when Sam Williams is about to be up. So Donovan Ezaraku was not a replacement for Micah. He was a replacement for Sam Williams after Sam Williams' contract is up. So this whole thing was supposed to be built around Micah until it wasn't. And so I think it's not totally fair to just view it as like logic with like the cap and how it and the football fit, because that's not how it went. Honestly, like all the logic part indicates to Micah being in Dallas, but at the end, emotions kind of won over, for better or worse.
The other thing I say about it too, when you mention it, Saad, makes me think of is also so what do you think is a bargain for Quinnen Williams? There's no world where he doesn't go for at least a 1. So let's just remove that out of there. And anybody that doesn't think that, go ahead and think whatever you want. You're wrong. He's not going for anything less than a 1. Probably a 1 and a 2 is too high. Sure. So let's say your trade board, you calculated he should have went for a 1 and a 5th. Okay. You gave a 2 instead of a 5. I'm fine with that. Honestly, that doesn't bother me at all. Like, what are the chances that you don't even get a decent player with your second round pick? Like, if you're not willing to do this, it'd be one thing if the Cowboys were constantly reckless making trades like this. Like, they don't really do stuff like this at all. Like, this is not Jerry Joey Galloway. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't Jerry Roy Williams. Like, so there's a part of me where it's like, covering this team for 15 years, I'm like, how often do they even do this?
Yeah, and also, John, to your point about that. So if you have to
overpay, you overpay a little.
Yeah, and to your point about that, I feel like, look, I haven't been told this by anybody in the Cowboys organization or anything in terms of their draft philosophy, but it sure seems like they take those second round picks as darts, and like they're going to basically, you know, overlook some off-field issues, overlook some concerns, overlook some injuries, and maybe they just feel like, all right, this is just pretend this was a dart that we took and it didn't work out, because they seem to view that second round pick like that quite a bit. So I don't know that was the logic or the line of thinking, but I'm just saying, like, you know, the second round pick that you're viewing as an NFL fan might be a lot different than the Cowboys when they look at it, because you might view it as you just lost on Derrick Henry, and they might view it as we just lost on Luke Schoonmaker. So there's kind of different values, I guess, and the way the Cowboys have played the second round value, I don't know. It just feels different.
I just look at it as like, you're going to have this coaching staff in a second year next year, because I don't see them parting ways with Matt Eberflus. There's just been too much talk about continuity for me to think that they're realistically going to do that, unless things just completely go sideways the rest of the season. And so there's going to be continuity in the coaching staff. I anticipate if they don't give George Pickens a contract extension, he's going to get franchise tagged. So I think this offense is going to look very similar. And then you have that offensive line with another year under their belt. I think the offense will still be one of the best offenses in the league next year. And then you make those additions on the defense. That's why you don't do it. You don't do one of the first this year. You need that to help build your defense. And then next year, you give them the higher of the first, because you're anticipating that whatever the higher of those first is, it's probably going to be 22, 23. You know, the Packers are one of the best teams in the league. Their roster is set up for that team to be good for a while, and they anticipate that they're going to be good next year too, as do I. I have no reason to think that the Cowboys won't be one of the better teams in the NFC next year. Like, I anticipate the Cowboys to be a playoff team next year. I don't anticipate that for the rest of this season, obviously.
I agree with all of that. I don't like, which, whatever, we know who we're dealing with too in the front office. I don't like just the backwards thinking and a little bit of chasing your tail, but like, you not like what, it doesn't matter what I think. Jerry and Micah were probably never going to get a deal done. So like,
are you saying that you think that they only did this Quinnen Williams to make up for Micah?
No, I just think I think it's to help the defense for next year. But these are things that you don't have to do.
I think chasing the tail made me think that you feel like they just did this. And I'm bringing this up because I think that there are Cowboys fans that think that. And that's fine. I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't think that. I'm just saying that I think Quinnen Williams is a really good player at an extremely valuable position that doesn't really have that many good defensive tackles, if we're being honest, like to that level.
Sure.
And so to get one of those guys who you also have the coach as your defensive line coach that brought out his best years in the NFL. Like, I just think that there's a lot more than just every day Jerry bringing Will McClay in his office going, do you find anybody on defense, yes, that we can get, that we can kind of, you know, maybe even give him number 11 and it could kind of be the duct tape over the Micah thing? Nothing yet? All right, I'll talk to you tomorrow about it. Like, I don't feel like that was the case.
Yeah.
Because I think that if that was the case, they would have overpaid for somebody months ago. Because now when you compare the apples to apples on the two trades, I mentioned the salary cap. I mean, obviously there's more salary being paid to Micah. The other part of it is if this deal was done straight up, like let's say it was a 3-team deal between the Jets, the Packers, and the Cowboys at the beginning of the season, there's also more value for the Cowboys in that sense because of the fact that you'd have Quinnen Williams for the entire season.
Yeah.
You're technically getting him now and the season's already lost. Now, it might not be, but it looks like it's pretty much lost. Whereas the Packers, now they were going to still be a good team with or without Micah Parsons, but the Packers have had Micah since week 1, and that's helped them. So that's where the advantage obviously goes to Green Bay there. They got their player right when the season started, and he obviously hit the ground running.
Yeah, and KT, I don't discount what you're saying and your line of thinking at all. I think the Cowboys do things sometimes like, ass backwards, but you also have to acknowledge that, in this situation, in certain like specific situations, sometimes falling ass backwards has worked out for them. And for example, like Dak Prescott was not drafted to be the heir apparent to Tony Romo. Like that he wasn't even supposed to be the quarterback that they got in plan A or plan B in that draft, let alone the guy that they wanted, but they fell into it and it worked out. So I do think that they fumble. I think both things are true, what you're saying. I think they fumbled the Micah situation pretty badly. And I think there's a chance that they fell into a situation and a player came available on a team that's bad in the Jets, and they could salvage that out of the resources from that. Doesn't vindicate or doesn't say like, they handled the Micah situation well. I don't think they did.
One thing I got to just jump in on this. On the Micah thing, every day that goes by, Saad, you bring up Jerry last week. I don't think you can say they on the Micah thing anymore. It's got to be he. This was only Jerry Jones. And I felt it at the time, but it just like there's so many things that happen at Nobu, Saad, where we always talk about this when we're there. Yeah, I can't write that, but I love hearing it because it's those moments where you're like, I knew it. And that's 100% the way I reacted when he said that thing about Micah Lane. And he didn't say Micah's name. He said, never would you see Michael Irvin or Marcus Spears laying on a damn training table in front of 1 million people. And I was just like, I knew it. I knew because I asked him, at that press conference after, if that was a factor in it. And him and Steven both played that off. Like, no, this is pro sports. That wouldn't bother us, whatever. And it probably shouldn't. But that bothered Jerry. And so that's why I've moved on the whole Micah thing to where I don't feel that way. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't feel like it was only Jerry being like, I got to go get Quinnen Williams. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
And I guess Micah's not like 100% innocent and all that, although I do think.
There's not about that.
No. I do firmly believe that Micah was running the playbook from his agent, though.
Sure.
Like it's not like Micah would have just known. Maybe I should give him more credit. I don't know. It's not like Micah would have just known, well, if I hold out, but if I go to practice and mope around, they still have to pay me. Like, that's someone telling you that. You're getting that advice.
Yeah. And I think the thing that bothered Jerry is that, but I also, when I'm going to give you that money, I need you to be like the leader of the defense. And so I think the way that Jerry was putting it, and I have to agree with him on this. I hate that way I sound on this podcast because I hate to be the one that's defending Jerry Jones. But like, when you think of the faces of teams, their lows are not doing that. Yeah. Joe Burrow's not doing that.
No.
Josh Allen's not doing that. Patrick Mahomes is not doing that. Dak Prescott's not doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's that?
Those are all quarterbacks.
Okay.
Trey Hendrickson.
Aiden Hutchinson.
Trey Hendrickson was doing that a little bit.
Laying on a training table like that?
Oh, no, not to the extreme because,
Well, Mike
is a lead character in a movie. He's not the supporting actor.
I think it had to get to extremes. For honestly, like the two extremes I'll always go to it was the training table and then Micah putting out that tweet the way he did, because Jerry has never had a player put out stuff the way he did with that tweet. That was the one that moved Jerry for sure. That was the starter on all of it, no doubt.
The Trayvon joint interview too.
Yeah.
I thought that one.
Yeah, you can factor that in for sure. Yeah.
And I'll say this. I don't think like the full.
Also, you were going to pay him like a quarterback too. Trey Hendrickson was never getting paid like a quarterback from the Bengals, but I guess Myles Garrett, would you have to, I'm trying to think of the highest paid non-quarterbacks.
Yeah. TJ Watt. He's not doing that. So, no, but what I'm saying is I also think that this is something we might look at in 2-3 years or maybe next year or something. Just to John's point about the culture, I think as long as you're in Dallas, Dak's shadow is so large that he's just going to be the face of the entire franchise. To the point where you don't really need an offense and defense face in terms of leadership. Like Dak is big enough to handle being the face of both. But if you are setting a culture and you're looking at it from independently on both sides of the ball, I mean, I don't know how the Cowboys are really going to look at it if next year that they're without Micah and Trayvon Diggs. Like, maybe that's a win for your culture. It's not maybe a win for your football team on X's and O's and on the stat sheet and even wins and losses. But going back to what John said about building the greatest culture in the world, I don't know, like that's again where this is way different. We talked about this for months, but this is where it's way different from the Luka trade. There's a lot more nuance here, a lot more than there was with the Luka trade.
Sure.
With the Luka trade, like there's some nuance still, but
a vendetta. Two people that clearly didn't like each other. Yeah,
I mean that's a lot. Yeah, that's Nico being getting power control. A political move. I don't rule out a small percentage of Patrick Dumont being like, I don't want to pay this guy the max. But Patrick Dumont, Nico had his ear. Patrick Dumont ain't hear much. So like Nico had his ear. And then I also think there's a Jason Kidd element to all this. And Jason Kidd will always find himself to self-preserve.
That is an interesting one because we're obviously not 24 hours into this firing, but he certainly seems to be not getting very much criticism. And I find it very hard to believe that. Let's just put it this way. Covering the Cowboys, you read a lot of body language. And the way Jason Kidd was at that press conference the day after they did that trade, when it was him and Nico, he did not look like somebody that was like, yeah, they did this against my will. And I'm just here to, I will never believe that he was 100% just like, yeah, I just kept fighting for Luke. I was like, whatever. It's like, yeah, you're Jason Kidd. You know what you do when that happens? You say you're leaving if you do that. You're going to get another job, probably even a better one. Like you are one of the few people in that profession that have that type of leverage, and there was none of that. So
he doesn't have a believable. He doesn't have a reputation that would make you want to give him the benefit of the doubt in a situation like that either. That like you have a track record here.
Yeah.
Did you guys perceive that I'm bringing this up A because he had what we were talking about, but B, he had 2 touchdowns on Sunday. Did you guys perceive that DeMarcus Lawrence was someone that the locker room would have really wanted back? Neutral, whatever.
I found it hard to believe that, like, just the way things were going, that, like, I'm not saying that him and Micah couldn't continue playing together. They obviously could have, but I think that it was one of those things where DeMarcus had been there for the longest, so he's the longest tenured guy, obviously still a starter, a good player, but Mike had so surpassed him as the player that it was like, well, it's his defense now, and I don't know how well that would have fit with DeMarcus Lawrence, you know what I'm saying? And also, DeMarcus Lawrence was getting banged up.
Yeah. He's
a 2014 draft pick. It's working out for the Seahawks. You tip your cap. That's ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, that stuff happens. Like, I got news for you. It doesn't happen very often with the Cowboys. It's easy to point to and be, oh, look at this guy, look at that. Name them all. Who are all these guys that go to these other teams that you're just like, man, that guy's playing so much better than they did for the Cowboys. Like, I mean, Jordan Lewis is having a good year, Yeah. Jordan Lewis had some good years with the Cowboys.
And you see it the other way. I mean, the Cowboys over the years, like, there's been the Rolando McClain or, whoever, and that, like, comes and you got a good year and that's a bonus and that's great. But I agree with that. Now, I don't think, though, that DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah, I don't think that would have worked out in the locker room.
No.
Just the way that things were going, the way conversations with DeMarcus Lawrence was going the last couple of years, even just in passing by off the record, just I don't think it was going to work out.
And I agree. Like, DeMarcus Lawrence had not been super available, and you see him get that contract with Seattle. Granted, Seattle can get out of it pretty easily if it went bad. But we would have done that. I do think you could look back at like the list of reasons why this year didn't turn out the way it was supposed to turn out, right? And one of them is, you let DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons go? Yeah, no wonder the defense was not very good. Like, that's a big part of it. So, like, this is where I go back to that whole thing of just, like, looking at things, like, foundationally. And I guess, like, again, I'm not comparing this to the Luka trade at all, but one thing that really has set the Mavericks back a lot is their continuous effort as an organization to put all the right pieces around Luka. And they did it and then traded him away.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys didn't necessarily do that with Micah, right? They haven't really been able to do that with Dak. Now they kind of are, I think, with the George Pickens thing. And everything that happened at training camp makes George Pickens a concern for me once this season ends. He's not a concern right now. And that's why I was thinking, like, you at least dangle him. We talked about this, 2 weeks ago, but like, dangling him out there at the trade deadline for a team like the effing Bills or someone who like needs a wide receiver, like to help put them over the top, made a lot of sense to me. And I understand the pushback is, well, Dak's having one of the best years he's ever had. And a big part of that reason is George Pickens. How do we know George Pickens isn't going to go lay on a training table and mope around at training camp next year? That's an issue for me. It has nothing to do with George Pickens' reputation. It has everything to do with the relationship with the agent and all that stuff that is literally going to happen. I don't think George Pickens takes a franchise tag very well.
No, he probably doesn't. But I also don't think that. I don't think he would go that route. I mean, he obviously has to play in the games to get that franchise tag money. So I don't think that'll happen. But that doesn't mean things couldn't get ugly. But I don't see it being. I get where you're coming from because it just happened. So it's easy. You can obviously make the argument it could happen again. Maybe it does.
You think Micah plays? Like, you get to that week, though? Like, the trade doesn't happen. Do you think he plays week 1?
Yeah, that's tough to say. I just think there's too much money involved, so I think, yeah.
That's the only reason I think he plays is because of the money involved. Yeah.
Not the love of the game?
No.
But, I mean, I also would say he's such a freak athlete that even if he didn't do much during the week, as long as he wasn't being a distraction, even if he wasn't really going that hard in practice, as long as you got him on field for those Sundays, you should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this in our post-game pod too. Like, the point that Jake made on their podcast was coming back. The defense was pretty similar in terms of the personnel. I mean, Jordan Lewis is probably the biggest glaring difference, but in week 1, before all the injuries hit and all that kind of stuff, it was pretty similar. It was just without Micah, and that's where you understand Micah makes a big difference. But I don't think that the way that the season has transpired and gone long, like, it would have been tough.
There's been a lot of talk about how much shuffling around is Matt Eberflus going to do with the defense now that he has a defense that now has Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, and Oso Odighizuwa. Ideally, if there was a time to make any type of big change on defense, bye week, have a little more time to organize that. Do you suspect we'll see any huge changes, or are we just kind of Quinnen Williams will plug in there and play and have a rotation going at DT, and we'll still be running, 4-man front and kind of the basic stuff?
So I think you're going to see more 5-man fronts because of that. I think you're going to see more where all 3 of those defensive tackles are out there with J.W. and Clowney and Donovan Ezaraku. I think you're going to see that. I just, obviously you lose Kneeland. So your depth changes at defensive end, and you ran more 5-down defensive linemen against Arizona. And so I think that is kind of where you have to go. And it's not a good defense. So it's not like you have a bunch of different things to play around with. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't really, you don't have a lot of options. It's not like, when you're a really good defense, like the Green Bay Packers or the Eagles, like we saw last night, you got a lot of different options you can do. This Cowboys team does not have a lot of options. So by all means, like, I don't expect anything to look like last night's game, or like they can get in a, punting grudge match until late in the fourth quarter. Like, they can't play like that. They're going to give up big plays, but I think with a 5-man front with those 3 defensive tackles playing a lot, I think that could get you maybe some more disruption get you some more negative plays, because there just wasn't enough negative plays either,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was something that players talked about last week in the locker room. Osa in particular was pretty, excited about the prospect of a 5-man front going forward. And I think it's a different way you have to view the defense when you have a player like Micah Parsons. Mike Zimmer talked about this when he came along, that you kind of build around Micah, and that's why I think that's the one little excuse that I do give Eberflus coming into the season, is I do think that he built around Micah quite a bit the whole offseason. But now that you don't have a player like that, and Quinnen Williams is great, but just the position he plays, by nature, he's not Aaron Donald. So he's great, but he's not that. He's not that. I think you do have to play more scheme, and you have to win with your scheme more than you do with just the name on the back of the jersey. And I think those 5 players, or the 5 down alignment, all of a sudden you're not having to deal with double teams. You're going one-on-one, and then you're hoping that in those one-on-ones, that's where you hope Quinnen or Osa in particular, maybe Ezaraku, maybe Jadeveon Clowney. You need one person to win that matchup, and all of a sudden, you're in a good spot. So I think it's just the transition of building around a player versus building around a scheme. And I think Quinnen Williams is good enough to dictate that scheme. And so I think that's why going 5 down, I think it will have better results.
So in terms of what you said though about Eberflus and with Micah and that, Micah missed several games last year being out injured. So I get making the plan all about him, but what it's looked like without him makes me, I'm sorry, just wonder.
Yeah.
Okay. Would that have planned, whatever that been? Would it have been as earth shattering and as great and just amazing?
No.
I've seen nothing. I honestly, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what other former players, current players, other teams, GMs of the Cowboys, people with the Cowboys. Nobody will convince me ever that this was going to be a good defense with Micah Parsons. I don't care. Disagree with me all you want. I'm just telling you, for as bad as they've looked, that's very, very wishful thinking. Would they have been better? Of course, obviously. This was not going to be a good defense. Please do not watch that game last night thinking that, man, if Micah Parsons should have been here, our defense would look like the Packers. No, it wouldn't have. I can promise you that.
Yeah, and I think you go by process of elimination there. And to your point, John, I think I agree with that too. I don't think this defense would have been good with Micah either. I think it could have been hovering around average, with around the 16 to 20 range maybe. But then if we do agree that most of the roster was the same as last year, a lot of the key pieces, then Eberflus is the lone man standing. That's the big difference. The 2 big differences were Micah and Eberflus. And that's where, I say I give Eberflus just the slimmest of just excuse in terms of how the season began. By no means do I vindicate him from the entire season or anything after week 2 or 3. But I just mean going into the season. But trust me, I'm not over here as a believer in Matt Eberflus by any stretch.
This is the way I feel about if Micah Parsons is on this team. I flip it 2 games. So that puts you at what? 5-3-1?
That puts you right in the mix, my friend.
Yeah, the mix for that wild card that I'm sure they were just going to go on the road and get a big win.
Hey,
because we haven't seen this. We haven't had a sample size at all. Basically what I'm getting at is I don't see them being on the same level as these other teams.
You got to get in.
I don't see them being on the same level as the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Lions, certainly not the Rams, and even the Packers.
They tied the Packers, and CeeDee Lamb drop or 2 away from beating the Eagles in week 1. We can only go off of what we know.
Yeah, but KT, you can't do that just because the Eagles would combat that with their probably 1 spit away from none of that even being relevant. So
what a weird way to start the year.
I'm just saying.
Let's go a lightning round. A lot of topics here, okay? We'll just jump around, kind of go fast here. Logan Wilson is on the team now. We haven't talked about him yet. Whoa, think he's going to play a lot, immediately?
I expect him to, but it's funny because when I asked Brian Schottenheimer on that, was it last Tuesday when it was Tuesday after the trade deadline. We had a press conference with Brian Schottenheimer, and I asked him about how, and I did it just basically pretty broad of just, how do you think Logan Wilson fits with DeMarvion Overshown? And he made sure that I included Kenneth Murray into that. And I was kind of like, okay. So it's supposed to be a competition between Kenneth Murray and Logan Wilson. So we shall see. I anticipate between now and the end of the season, Logan Wilson will be out there more than Kenneth Murray if both are healthy, but we shall see. They are not saying that. Stephen Jones, Monday on the radio, 105.3 The Fan, said that he sees it as a competition as well between them two. So I haven't seen enough from Kenneth Murray this year to think that it'll be much of a competition, but I haven't been watching the Bengals because I have a life.
Hey, it could be worse. Watching the Raiders is tough, as we saw on Thursday night. That's who we get next week.
Hey,
get to picks in a minute.
Let me throw in one real quick. Something that nobody has talked about that has really gotten lost in the trade deadline day. You know, in the Cowboys, they've been pretty popular recently of, going after players that they had high on their draft boards, former first round picks. Kyer Elam, I believe, is one that, remember we talked about that. What's my man's name from the Saints? I always forget his name. The edge rusher.
Cameron.
Peyton. No.
Peyton Turner. Sorry.
Peyton Turner. There was a lot of that talk. So what I'm getting at is, are there people right now in New York having those same talks about Mozzie Smith? Are there Jets fans going, this guy's a former first round pick? We also got him in the trade, and he's about to help us be similar to Quinnen, who was also a first round pick. Are there people talking about that?
Yes, because they have nothing else to talk about up there.
I did see a quote from their GM that just reading off Mozzie's traits. And to be honest, I think if you're, I know the Jets are not intentionally doing this, but you look at the game that they won, I feel like Mozzie is more of a help to make sure that doesn't happen again. And they get the highest draft pick possible. So the other place that I thought you were going, John, is completely different from anything we're talking about, but I'm just, the fourth round exodus that the Cowboys have had with Trey Lance and then Jonathan Mingo, and just we just the Trey Lance thing just didn't work. It didn't happen. He's in Los Angeles now, and we kind of forget about it. And Mingo, this wide receiver depth is not stacked. It's not like you have no opportunity to get on the field as a number 4 over Jalen Tolbert or something. And he's kind of back in terms of his health. And I'm kind of surprised that, the only reason I thought you were going there is because that's the line we got about, getting him was high on the draft board, that kind of stuff.
I don't like coming on this show and you guys paint me in this defend Jerry corner, but I didn't mind the Trey Lance thing. And to me, the way they've handled Mingo was very, very Howie Roseman-like. Did they sit there and go, well, we're just going to have to make this guy work? No, they go out and try and get George Pickens. There's an edge rusher over in San Francisco that they paid a lot of money in Huff for, and they gave him the Eagles did. And he was not a part of their Super Bowl at all. And he was supposed to be a big part of, and they gave him away to San Francisco. And we're like, well, we're moving on. This didn't work. So they moved on to George Pickens. So.
Oh, but yeah. I don't think the competition for Mingo was ever.
If they were forcing Mingo out, what I'm saying is if they were forcing us every Sunday, let's say if Mingo was healthy, to where it's CeeDee Lamb, Tolbert, and Mingo, I would be far more critical of them than where they're just well, we're going to make this work. We gave it before. But the fact that they went in the offseason, they're like, we will take Tataroa McMillan at 12 if he is there. And then he's not. Well, we're making a move for a wide receiver. Because judging by those talks this year at Nobu, they were making a wide receiver. And if it wasn't Pickens, there were a couple other veterans that they were definitely making a move for when they did not get McMillan. So they weren't set on sitting on Mingo. So while it is a mistake and they should be criticized for that, no, don't get me wrong, I think the way that they handle wide receiver is very, very Howie Roseman-like.
Yeah, I just don't think I ever viewed Mingo, even at the time of the trade or even now, as anything close to a competition for your number 2. I just thought, like, you know, if Jalen Tolbert is kind of flaming out and, you know, like he's not going to be part of this in the future. Kevontae Turpin was hurt for a little bit. And sure, Ryan Flanoy, to their credit, showed up and has been solid and has been good. I just, you know, if you kind of sold us on how high you felt about him in the draft, I would have liked to see some opportunity there, not as in place of Pickens or Lamb, but, you know, as your number 3 or 4.
I don't think that their plan was to have a 2, like in the sense that we think of a 2, like Detroit's 2 and Philly's 2 and the 2 that they have now. They were going to go at it with, we spent all this money on CeeDee Lamb, we're going to have a bunch of 3s. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to rotate off by whoever we're going against. And so maybe that week it's more Turpin or Mingo or Tolbert or whoever, Flanoy or whoever came, and they realized that's not going to happen. We can't do that. And then that's why they were like, we will take McMillan at 12. And then when he was gone, it was like, well, we don't see any other receivers out here that aren't just more guys for our number 3 pile. We have plenty of those. So we'll wait till this thing's over. And then we'll go again. Don't put me in this spot where I'm defending them on this, but I will defend that because the Mingo thing, to KT's point, if he's laying on training tables out of training camp, we can revisit this. But up to this point, it's been pretty good return. Like, I think the idea of a Pickens Lamb combo for the next couple of years looks pretty good to me. If you fix it
looks good to me too. I think the only thing I'm saying is, if you always viewed Mingo as part of your pool of number 3s, then you really never had to make that trade because you were going to get McMillan or you were going to do something else to get another number 2. And if you didn't, then you had Kevontae Turpin, you had Tolbert, you had Flanoy, and you had whatever else comes along. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you that, like, if you were going to have a number 2, Mingo is never going to be that guy.
Yeah.
I just think that probably.
But to your point, back. I mean, to give up the pick they did, you should hope that guy has a chance to be a 2 for sure. Field. Yeah. No doubt. No, they messed it up big time. But I'm just making the argument. I like using Philadelphia as an example because I think they're the best. Like, I think Howie Roseman's the best. That's the only reason I refer to him. I'm not doing it because it's Cowboys Eagles. I just think he's the best at what he does. And I really don't think there's a good argument for whoever's number 2. You know, I think the Lions got a great guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that the Packers have a great roster. I like a lot of things that they do. San Francisco, you know, there's a lot of them, but I'm just saying, I think clearly Howie Roseman's the best at it. And they paid a lot for Bryce Huff, and they got absolutely nothing from him. And they didn't sit there and sulk. They moved on from him, and they were like, okay, we're going to go bring Brandon Graham. We're going to bring Brandon Graham off the couch, and then we're going to go trade for a guy in Jalen Phillips, and he's going like a monster first game in. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah.
Okay, Brian Dable out in New York. Seeing a little bit of a little chatter out there about how Mike McCarthy would be a really good fit for the Giants next year. Which I'll say, it is interesting to look at this entire division. It is an interesting year to have Hard Knocks NFC East because you have a fired head coach, you have an arm get dislocated for Jaden Daniels up in Washington. They have not been having a good time. That is there's a lot of holes on that roster, man. And then, you know, the Eagles and the Cowboys always have their own storylines, of course. I thought that was interesting. You know, Garrett went there for a little bit, called some plays. Mike McCarthy calling plays for Jackson Dart. The Giants actually does kind of fit. I feel like that's actually a really good fit for him. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Like, are there any obvious ones? I mean,
Bill Belichick.
Yeah, and like that to me, I'm just like, I don't know.
You know,
there's the way everything's going at North Carolina has made me question everything. And as Saad knows, I've been a big Bill Belichick fan, but the stuff that's happened in the last 365 days have made me question all of that. So
Chapel Bill.
Yeah.
I just think one of the funniest things they could do is hire Belichick as the head coach. And then his longtime special teams assistant in New England was Joe Judge. Get him as the special teams coordinator. His other assistant in New England was Brian Daboll. Bring him back as the offensive coordinator, and just, you know, give it a go.
Cooked. That's a little fun.
That Ohio State defensive coordinator is rolling right now. You can go bring Patricia back.
Oh yeah, bring Patricia back.
You can get the whole staff back together, man.
Everyone but Vrabel.
And McDaniels,
who seems to be doing very well.
Yeah, Vrabel's doing fine. Josh McDaniels doing very fine. They're having a good time out there. Pete Carroll not having a good go at it either. This is the lesson here. At some point, you don't have to come back. You can just go enjoy your life. You can go out to the islands. You have a lot of money. You'll play golf every day. Whatever it is you want to do. You want to do, Pete Carroll, you want to coach a team? Let me tell you something. Fantasy football. Like, you can do all the things that you want to do, my man. You don't have to come back and then have people think less of you.
I'm going to give you 4 quarterbacks right now. You're the GM of a team.
Okay.
Which one of these 4 would you guys want? You get them today and you get them for the duration of their career.
Okay.
Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jane Daniels, and Jackson Dart.
See, the only reason it's tough is because quarterbacks are so it's so
100%.
depends on their environment.
100%.
Like Drake May with Vrabel as the head coach and Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator, I think that is probably the situation that I'm taking. But then Caleb Williams with Ben Johnson is freaking awesome. Jackson Dart is probably the most wild card for me. And Jaden Daniels, I think he's fine too. But for me, it'd be between Drake May and Caleb Williams in their current situations with those coaches that they have.
Caleb, Drake, Jaden, Jackson. I agree. And I
ain't
going based off how I felt about all of these guys going into the draft.
Yeah, I would say for me that I agree with the list that KT just had. I think for me, and I'm doing it on just any team.
Sure.
Jackson Dart, his play style and Jane Daniels' play style concern me a little bit. Again, I'm not just talking about winning this year. I'm talking about I'm trying to have these guys for 10 years plus. And so how they, not just the way they play, but for them to be at their best, I think they have to have some of that in their game. And maybe even that, you can say the same thing about Caleb too. But yeah, I think it's between Caleb and May for me. But yeah,
Caleb's thicker than people realize. Like Jaden Daniels is a stick, and I worry about him.
Yeah.
And obviously the arm thing was a freak of nature.
And he can win. He can win from the pocket. I'm not saying he can't. I just think to be at his absolute best, he has to be able to run as well. And I don't know that you want your franchise quarterback, especially the thing is, it's kind of like the Dak thing. Like the longer they play, the less you really want them doing that stuff. Like it hasn't really hit Josh Allen yet. I think it will eventually, but it gets to a point where it's like, we're paying you too much. We need you to be healthy. We don't need that extra 5 yards on that. Throw that ball away. You know, like we don't need you getting hurt. Like our only chance to make a deep playoff run is with you on the field. And so because of that, I don't know. I'm amazed with what Drake May has done. So that's the reason I brought it up.
Yeah,
I am too. And I'll say as a football fan, I am absolutely in love with what's going on in Chicago because I know John has his own allegiance, but I'm a huge Ben Johnson fan just for the sole reason that he doesn't he's his own kind of made person. And there's no really like tree there and things like that. And I think what he's doing is awesome. I just hope that Caleb is able to, fix up some of those technique issues that he has and things like that. And I think the sky would be the limit for that. So,
the limit's already been reached. You want to know why? Go look at the rest of their schedule.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's the toughest rest of his schedule I've seen. Like if someone has a better one, please let me know. But it's like, it literally goes like they play the Vikings and Steelers in their next 2 games, which, hey, they could win both those. Eagles, Packers, Browns, Packers, Niners, Lions.
Yeah, that's
what do you got left? 2 wins, 3 wins?
Bears are tied for the second highest strength of schedule. By the way, the Cowboys gauntlet that we talked about, like the back half of the season, 23rd strength of schedule. Like
no, the
Giants, you play the games, the Giants
in Washington for sure have gone down. I would say to me, the Vikings are still pretty similar to what I thought they would be. Same for the Chargers, same for the Lions, same for the Chiefs, same for the Eagles. So I don't know. It hasn't really changed. Just those last 2 games have changed a lot for me.
I'll just speak as a Packers fan. I will tell you, this start is concerning to the Packers. Do this every year. They don't start playing good till Thanksgiving. There's a lot of LaFleur on the hot seat stuff,
which will be interesting with Micah because Micah usually plays his best ball earlier in the year. So it'll be interesting to see how that adds up as it goes on.
And we don't know that he was You really like the cold weather? Like, there's a lot of things.
Oh no, we're about to find out something on that one.
Yeah, no, we really are. But he's been
yesterday
awesome.
Seems like a blast. 20 whatever degrees.
I do not understand why Matt LaFleur is always wearing so many condoms. Dude, can we just let Jordan Love play football? I don't understand it. Like, I'm sitting there watching it like, oh, 2 more runs and a 3rd and 5. Great. Okay, well, we better be perfect here. Throw it to Tavion Wicks. He drops it. Sorry, it's Cowboys podcast.
So, yeah, but real quick on that. Do you think that is a quarterback distrust or a wide receiver distrust? Because their receivers are
distrust.
Oh, okay.
That's what I think it is.
Because you think about, like, when I think of the Packers receivers, it ties back in with the Cowboys thing, only it's not at 3s. It's, I don't know, we're going to throw a bunch of 2s at it, see what happens.
The Browns
who's their one? To me, like, hey, I'll be honest with you. I obviously root against them quite a bit.
Yeah.
Tucker Kraft is who I worry about the most.
It was Tucker Kraft.
You know,
now it's probably Christian Watson.
But I do think, I mean, all the other receivers I think have like 2 potential.
It's Reed when he gets back, but Reed broke his collarbone and had a foot surgery. You know, so it's Reed when he gets back. And that
Golden, I think, has the potential to be a 1.
Yeah, he's hurt now, and you know, but you know, yeah, and they're going to lose Dobbs this year, free agency probably, something like that. But like Reed was kind of the guy who was outside of Tucker Kraft, was kind of Jordan Love's whoopee.
Yeah,
it's all like Cleveland broke them. Myles Garrett broke them. I think they got sacked like 5 or 6 or 7 times that game, and since then, Matt LaFleur's like, "Yep, 3rd and 10. Okay, we'll drop back to pass," and they still like have these like explosive plays, like they have a ton of those, but like. The way he's managing and calling these games is like he's really worried Jordan Love's just going to throw it to the other team or get sacked a lot. And I'm like, there's a weird reputation around him that he just turns the ball over a lot, and he kind of doesn't.
I was surrounded by Packers fans when I was waiting in the tunnel for Micah to come out when they obviously played the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. And there were a lot of Packers fans there. And it was just funny because I mean, Micah doesn't come out to the very end. I mean, I'm hanging out for probably about a half hour. So I got nothing going on, just basically checking Twitter. And it was interesting for me to like listen to who like they lost their mind for the most when they came by. And so Micah's not coming by. So obviously Jordan Love, no doubt about that. That's the obvious one. But like those people love Tucker Kraft. Like when he came out, I was just like, wow.
Let me tell you something. They loved John Kuhn too. So.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah, I randomly.
They also were real pumped when they saw Brett Favre too. But I mean, it is.
It was Wisconsin big guy, loves cheese and milk, probably. You know, all that stuff. You know the drill.
I love a good time.
I randomly rewatched the Cowboys Packers game, the playoff one, and just the highlights of it. And I just saw like Tucker Kraft catching a pass or two. I was like, man, he's really popped up big time now, but like he's been there for a good minute. Like he just got crossed over.
He wasn't even the first tight end they took in the second round that year. They took Luke Schoonmaker. No, not Luke Schoonmaker. I'm sorry, Luke Musgraves.
Yeah,
sorry.
I remember that. Yeah,
Musgraves, who's had a Schoonmaker-like career.
Can you imagine this offense if Schoonmaker ended up being Tucker Kraft? Oh my God!
It'd be on, and then you'd be like, "How do I get out of this $12 million I'm giving Ferguson?"
But what if you had both?
Yeah, I mean, usable parts. Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, let's do picks. All right. John, you are in first place with a commanding lead. Dallas -3. 3-point favorites in Vegas Monday night.
Yeah, give me the Cowboys. I know that obviously they've been through a lot this week and certainly heavy hearts going into that game. I think that they're going to play really well. And I do think Quinnen Williams makes a big impact right away. And I just don't think the Raiders are very good. I mean, you can make the argument the Cowboys aren't very good, but I think they're better than the Raiders. So, yeah, give me the Cowboys.
Saad?
Yeah, give me the Cowboys. Other than Max Crosby, there's not a whole lot that concerns me. However, since I did start this thread on Twitter about, like, you know, how some offensive player always does something crazy on the defense, we'll see if that continues. But Ashton Genty would be on that watch. And Ashton Genty against Quinnen Williams and that new run defense is going to be really interesting.
Will Kent go opposite? As we all took Cowboys -3. I'm taking them as well. Kent, are you going to do it?
When I'm looking at some of the quarterbacks that have beaten the Cowboys this year, Bryce Young, Bo Nix, Jacoby Brissett, almost Russell Wilson. I think Geno Smith falls right in line with that. So give me Las Vegas.
I love the game theory, my friend. I love it.
I think Tom Brady will probably be there too since the Monday night game.
Oh, yeah, we up there in the booth stealing some ideas. Okay, Eagles and the Lions, a Sunday night beauty in Detroit. I'm sorry, in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, yeah. I apologize. Philadelphia, 2.5-point favorites. I'm going to take Detroit and the points. That's something I feel like I have to do, and I like it, actually. Detroit plus 2.5 for me. Let's go to Kent.
Yeah, give me the Lions.
Saad?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that offense. There's way too much talent on that offense on that Philadelphia offense to look the way that they do. Yeah, give me the Lions.
We think, John?
Oh man, these Eagles!
Howie Roseman.
They're just too good, And I just think this is gonna be a big game for AJ Brown to get back on track. So yeah, give me the Eagles.
All right, there it is. And we will end this. We have Rams Seahawks, pretty good one.
Ooh.
On Sunday afternoon as well. Rams -3. We'll start with
Where's
you this
game?
In L.A.
Okay.
SoFi.
Who's going first?
Let's start with Saad.
Give me the Rams. Riding the Stafford train out.
Rams -3. Okay. I am going to take Seahawks +3. That defense is really humming right now. So I'm going to take the points. Seahawks +3. Let's go to John.
I'm a huge Matthew Stafford fan and always will be. And I don't know that I've ever seen him play better than he is right now. I think he just recently moved up to it's a slight favorite over Drake May, but I think he is a little bit of a favorite right now for MVP. And just watching him against San Francisco over the weekend, man. Also, that's one nice thing about that Cowboys bye week. I mean, it's so addicting. I was telling Saad this last week, or was it the week before, about, man, I could just sit around, man, watching these games is so much fun. So anyway,
Red Zone's wonderful.
Yeah.
You got 2 weeks like that. You got 3 weeks like that in a row. Because you get Monday night, bye week, Monday night.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And so he's playing on just an incredible level. So yeah, give me the Rams.
Okay. Rams -3. And Kent, send us home, bud.
I'll take Seattle to cover.
Seattle +3 for Mr. Kent. Kent,
is there a more under the radar 7-2 team that you can think of ever? Like the head coach
Colts.
Flies under the radar.
Colts.
I mean, the Colts are there. The only reason I'm saying not them is just because of Jonathan Taylor. He's just having this incredible year or whatever. But no, it's just like, they go with Sam Darnold, who I guess you can compare that to the Colts, obviously, with Daniel Jones. But just like to just be rolling the way that they are, it's just crazy. I don't. But they're good. They're real good, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I do this like weekly column where I put out like my top 5 contenders, and I just cannot put the Colts on that like top 5 favorites to win the Super Bowl. Like
frustrating.
So you definitely have Seattle above Indy then?
Yeah, I think like a little bit.
If they played each other, neutral site, like in a Super Bowl, who would you pick?
That's a tough one. But just for clarity, the way that I do my column is to get to the Super Bowl, and I just can't see Indianapolis getting through Mahomes and Allen and whatever to get to the Super Bowl. Whereas like I can see Seattle getting through the NFC to get to the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, and especially if they're the 1 seed and you got to go to Seattle. Yeah, for sure, I agree.
So yeah, that's where now head to head, I don't know. That would be a tough one. I would give Indianapolis a chance on that.
Yeah.
But in terms of getting through their conference to get there, I'm not buying the Colts yet.
By the way, guys, let's see. Make sure that's all actually. That's all I have on that. We're good. We got our picks in. We're happy. We're good. Make sure you're checking out everyone on The Athletic. Saad and John Machota over there working their butt off, covering the team for you. We're recording this on Tuesday night, so we will be back with you next week because we got a Monday night game again. Make sure you check out that Mad About Movies podcast with Kent Garrison. Kent just saw a movie called Bugonia, which I saw on Friday night. Maybe it's Bugonia. Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, and I highly recommend. And Kent might too. You can check that out on the Mad About Movies podcast. I'm going to tease that up a little bit. Sure. I also do a Saturday Night Live podcast called The After Party, where we go sketch by sketch. And I want to say that Kent Garrison was my special guest this week with me and my good friend Jesse Cubinet. So for all our SNL fans who are Cowboys fans, there you go. I never promote my stuff, so I had to do it one time. Good to be back, guys. Been 2 weeks. Weird, eventful bye week, but we'll get back together in a few days and do the thing. Thanks to all our audience out there for listening and hanging with us. I know we've been out of your feed for 10 to 14 days or whatever, so thank you for sticking with us, and we'll see you next time on the One Star Cowboys podcast. Goodbye.
Michael Parson.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.